One of our guests last night who was in attendance at the Trump rally in Tampa mentioned seeing members of the fringe right wing, including a conspiracy group, the members of which display the letter Q prominently. We saw it in the crowd and signs and on shirts, and the Q stands for QAnon. The group got its start on the web. They believe they've received intel from a top government source, a mole at the highest reaches of our government, and there is no end to the false rumors they have pushed, including a smear effort headquartered on YouTube, alleging several Hollywood celebrities, Democratic politicians, and other so-called elites are pedophiles involved in a global child sex ring. They believe the Mueller investigation is actually about Obama and Clinton, and that Trump is made to appear as more of the cover. And here is the comment from Trump that gave this group a lot of fuel. A photo op during a White House dinner for military commanders and their spouses. And note what the president says here, which would normally be filed under the kind of toss-off comment the president sometimes makes.
You guys know what this represents?
Well,
maybe it's the calm before the storm.
what's the storming?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm, Mr.
We have the
President?
world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Give us a hint on your Iran decision.
Thank you, everybody.
Calm before the storm. NBC News reporter Ben Collins covers this digital world for the network and has been looking into this group and writing about them. As we mentioned, we've asked Clint Watts, former FBI special agent, to stick around and be a part of this. Ben, did I get their motives and some of their beliefs about right, and what else should we know about them?
Unfortunately, you got it all right. There's not much to know about them. Basically, this is fan fiction. This is a conspiracy theory that, Donald Trump is doing everything right, and anything that looks like he's doing wrong is actually the right thing. They misconstrue typos intentionally to make it look like he's in on it, this whole thing. And, at the end of the day, this is just in a situation where people on the internet who can't really grapple with the reality of this situation have decided to take out all this disinformation on their political enemies. And that's what you see here. They've accused all of these people, from celebrities to politicians, of being a part of a child sex ring that simply does not exist. We thought this was over with Pizzagate, but it just amped itself up with the help of a lot of different people on Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook.
And Clint, you do your work, your life's work, as we do ours, in a free society where it's hard to limit this kind of thing. It's hard to squelch or suppress it. Look at the climate this is coming up in.
Right. And going back 2 years ago, we saw the Kremlin pushing a lot of disinformation around the election. But what we're seeing now is everybody adopting those techniques. So there's a lot of artificial production in terms of social media, social bots, amplification. You're seeing very high-end production. The videos are very good, which makes them more convincing. And you're seeing them spread very rapidly and in a much quicker way. So like the key phrase there, the calm before the storm. What you can do is, if you're a good social engineer, you can pick out these phrases that are catching with the audience and combine them into a conspiracy that seems more convincing to people that don't really know the details. So I'm not so much worried just about Russian disinformation today. I'm worried about American disinformation because it's a public safety issue. A lot of these conspiracies, we've seen people show up with weapons. We've seen shutdowns, police emergencies that have come from it. And if you look at this has got all the elements of what would maybe be an uprising or advocating for violence or nudging people towards it or even political upheaval. So I think it's a really dangerous phenomenon, especially when you see it tied to the president and his rallies.
Ben, in the immortal words of my late mother, who had no idea groups like this would someday surface in her country, it's all fun and games till someone gets hurt. What is the danger of something going really wrong?
Sure, we've already seen it with the Pizzagate situation, where Comet Pizza, last year.
Right. Right,
exactly. A man walked into a pizza parlor and shot it up, assuming there was a child sex ring in the basement, trying to investigate it. Now, with QAnon, there's already some real-life examples, right? There was a guy who blocked the entrance to the Hoover Dam a couple weeks ago. Since he's gotten into jail, he's sent a bunch of wild letters to the president talking about QAnon conspiracy theories. There's a guy in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona, who has, for the past few weeks, he got a felony trespassing charge because he believed that a homeless camp was a child sex trafficking camp It had nothing to do with it. He was live streaming it on YouTube and Facebook until Facebook finally brought all this stuff down. This stuff has real life consequences. It's happening all the time now. And these people putting up Q signs everywhere at Trump rallies is not going to help it.
Clint, how much do you fear that this group is getting a wink and a nod from the right people to not stop? And what can the government do in a free society?
Yeah, I think it was a little over a year ago I talked, part of the reason this works is because we have politicians in this country that are doing influence operations that are very similar that we see to foreign media influence. And I think the other big thing is we had a hearing today in the Senate. The Senate Intel Committee, was talking about social media and disinformation. And people can make fake news, they can make manipulated truths, they can make conspiracies faster than the social media companies can identify them and swat them down. And in that lag time, we have lots of changes happening. 1 in 4 people in a poll in Texas don't think they should have their children vaccinated. 4 in 10 don't actually think it's a bad idea for Russia maybe to meddle in our elections. So these are having real changes in our society. It's breaking us up and dividing us. And it's a very efficient technique for hidden manipulators. Those people with sophisticated technology that can mine and figure out what grabs with an audience, which can slickly produce this content, can actually drive major events in our country, political, public safety. You could get people to show up under false auspices with rifles. This is a dangerous situation, and if our politicians are maybe not tamping it down, but just not saying much about it or letting it go because it might be beneficial in the near term, it could be really devastating to our country in the long term.
Of course, this week we learned people could show up with guns they have compiled on a 3D printer. The president's next rally is tomorrow night, Wilkes-Barre, PA. He's got another rally this weekend in Ohio. We will all watch for this and see who turns out in both cases. We'd love to have you gentlemen both on again on this subject if you'd agree to that. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a disturbing topic.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.